Hello, everyone. Welcome to the second episode of Conversations with the Dreamers. I'm your host, Petronella Mnenja, and I am so excited to be the one who platforms this conversation. We had our very first episode a few weeks back, and the response has been overwhelming. Thank you so much for the support. Thank you for the comments. Thank you for the likes. Thank you for the shares. Please continue liking, continue sharing. We appreciate you, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Today, our guest comes all the way from Nigeria. He is my newfound brother. He is an author. He is a community mover. He's a community changer. He is a TED speaker, y'all. I had to do exercises in the mirror. I had to get ready. How do I interview a TED speaker? But here we are. So let's welcome to the platform my brother all the way from Nigeria, Mr. Lengdung Tungchamma.
Oh, hello everyone. Hello, Petty. How are you? And
Hi.
hello, viewers. How are you all doing?
Did you see what happened? I tried pronouncing your surname and I stopped myself midway.
Don't worry, you're forgiven. You're forgiven. I'll forgive you this one. Very glad to be here. I'm very glad to be on Conversations with the Dreamers. I watched the last episode. This was super amazing. It was very high, but I don't know whether I can be able to reach it today. But I have the whole of Nigeria behind me, the giant of Africa. So we're standing up to this.
Oh my God, I am so excited. And thank you so much, for this opportunity. I love your work. I have gone through your Facebook page. I've gone through everything that you do. And I have to say, it's absolutely phenomenal. So it's an amazing pleasure to have you here. So without further ado, who is Ledung? Tell us about yourself. Who are you, sir?
No, that's usually the most difficult question in the whole world. Yeah, Langdon is a graduate of computer science from University of Jos. He's also a community developer
Mhm.
who works with Jenta Reads Community Initiative. Um, during the day, I have uh, during the day I have a regular work. I do data science, I build websites, and then I do support in digital marketing.
Mhm.
And and then I also am the co-founder of the Jenta Reads Community Library, a library in our community here. And I love traveling a lot. Yeah. And my wife, oh, I've jumped my wife so fast. And I'm married to the most beautiful man in the world. And my wife, I have a beautiful daughter who is 3 years old. And yeah, recently my book just got out, Motion, a Genta story, which is basically a story of my community. Here to we're here to talk with Petty about all of these things. So
I
if you want to
know.
know me fully, watch till the end.
Oh, thank you so much. I wanted to say we'll get to the book.
Uh-huh.
It's part of that story that's very very amazing. So tell me about where you grew up. Tell me a little bit more about your childhood. What sort of how where did you grow up? What sort of
Uh-huh.
environment did you grow up in, and how did your upbringing shape the person that you became?
Oh, yeah. So my first memory is of running away from home. It
Mm,
was we were running away in 2001. There was another religious crisis between the Muslims and Christians in my city, Jos,
mm,
and we were running away from home because our community has just been attacked,
mm,
and people were being killed. And I was running, and I was running, and one of my uncles took me, put me on the back. You know the way we Africans back babies, which is something I found out that the rest of the world does not do. But yeah, I mean, they put me on the back. And so my shoe fell in the river, and I kept crying to my dad. I kept telling him, Daddy, my shoe, I need you to bring my shoe. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know that it was a crisis. I didn't know that this was a life or death situation. I didn't know that the people that were being killed were actually going to die. It was this subconscious means of living, but it was my earliest memory. And for the rest of my life, it became the trademark. As I grew up, as I became older, at first, the sound of gunshots were terrifying. Then they became normal. Gunshots were something we heard regularly in our neighborhood, and crime was normal. I'm not proud to say this, but I've seen someone being killed and their bodies torn apart and shared for human beings to be eaten. And and then there were other parts of the childhood which was a lot of poverty. It
mhm,
wasn't uncommon to see people go to bed without food. I know families who go days without food because they have to come to our house to eat.
mm,
And just to give the ultimate picture, In my neighborhood, there are 4 houses surrounding ours, from the north, from the south, from the east. In all of those houses, in 2 of the houses, the fathers are dead, and in 2 of the other houses, 2 ladies got pregnant out of wedlock. None of them completed secondary school, and in the other houses, um, all of them, there are just 1 or 2 university graduates from there. And so these were the conditions that shaped me. Now the truth is, this environment is not that it's an unhappy environment. We were happy. We had a bright, colorful childhood. I tell you the truth, no one knows how to enjoy life more than poor people. We know how to enjoy life and to have fun in full. So we did have fun, swim in rivers, climb mango trees, run across mountains. We did all those beautiful things. But the underbelly of all of this was a life of poverty, a life of crime, a life of challenges, a life that you were constantly living on the edge. And by the time I became older, at first I was growing into this kind of life. But there was a point where everything changed. There was a point where at first these were normal to me, these were accepted to me, even till date, there are still habits that I still practice that I don't know where to me were absolutely common there. One example of this practice is in Jenta, it was common to see people pour spit on the ground. People are just walking, they just spit. There was nothing. It was absolutely okay. You go to the bathroom, come out, you don't wash your hands. These were normal. In fact, the first time I went to a place and I saw someone trying to wash their hand after eating, I felt insulted. I was like, dude, are you insulting me? Are you telling me I'm dirty? Like, you get it. So, but this were, so my life was actually that way until a certain point.
That's very inspiring. I grew up in rural Zimbabwe, so I can identify with some of the things that you talked about. And you're right, poor people enjoy life because you have no cares, no worries. Everything you have is a blessing, every
Yes.
every warm meal, every new clothes, every new pair of shoes,
Uh-huh.
every
Uh-huh.
dress, it's so I think
Yes.
my question for
We,
you
s-
would be,
uh-huh.
oh sorry, you wanted to say something, go on.
Yeah, we say YOLO, you only live once.
True,
Yeah.
true, true.
Yeah. So poor people believe it a lot.
Yeah, and if you live it well, once will be enough.
Yeah.
I think my question for you would be, I grew up in an environment, that was sort of that really did encourage dreams. Because if you're coming from a community like that, you don't really have many role models around. You don't really know what an alternative future could look like. What was your source of inspiration? How did you grow up in that environment to pursue dreams? What made you want to pursue that? What inspired you?
This thing you're saying, Patsy, about dreams, about growing up in an environment, this is one of the things a lot of social workers, the UN, all of these big organizations who come around, they do big projects in rural communities, who come around, they pour money for boreholes, for schools, for all of these things, this for development, which is a lot of times it is well intentioned. One of the things they don't realize about these communities and these places is
Mhm.
that a lot of times there's just no ambition. And there's no ambition because there's no dream. You meet people and the only dream they have is just to marry. And
Mhm.
that's the life. That's the dream they have. That's the entire purpose of their existence. As meaningful as marriage is, it can be the entire purpose of your life. And as 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 important as this is, life is supposed to be bigger than this. Marriage is supposed to be part of the thing you enjoy as you pursue your purpose in life. I mean, who remembers who remember how many great people do you remember today that had just great marriages? We don't remember. Our parents had great marriages, but who knows them today? They're back there at home in the village. But a meaningful life, marriage should just be a part of the component of it. So in the trenches, there are no big dreams. There are no. You ask a kid. Recently, I did this. I actually asked a boy, "What does he want to be?" You know what he told me? He told me he wants to be a bike man. A
Oh.
bike man is someone who drives bike. And this is good. This is okay. This is something that people do that meaningfully give their life a meaning of a means of income. But
Mhm.
that can be the big dream of your life.
Mhm.
When we say big dream, you need to say something more ambitious, something more audacious. So
Mm.
as a kid, I really didn't have any dream. Whenever people ask, you won't believe this. I was very brilliant in school. I used to take first position, always get gift and all of this. When people asked me what I wanted to be, I honestly didn't know what I wanted to be. Like, this is a very brilliant kid, but he didn't know what he wanted to be. For most of my primary school, my secondary school, it was towards the end of it that I finally was gaining food. And then the thing that really changed for me were three things. Number one was God. God, there was tremendous, I experienced tremendous mercy, like mercy in a very incredible way. And so for most of my life, I've been dependent on my mom. My mom was everything to me. So, but by the time I was 12, she died. So it was like my worldview crashed, everything crumbled. So now I have to rebuild it back. So, and then it was while rebuilding it that I started seeing the loopholes of my identity. My identity was attached to her, my existence was attached to her, and it had to shift. And it was God that was walking me through all those steps. Then the second thing that happened to me were the people I met. The people I met. I've been very lucky. I met a lot of amazing people. I mean, look at Betty. She's so amazing. Look at Taffy. So amazing. It's like God has rigged the game for me that I'm going to continue meeting amazing people in my life. And then the third thing was books. Books, books, books. Books made a whole big difference for me. The moment I started reading, it was a whole new universe. In fact, after I started reading, one of the things that happened was that I started rejecting Jenta. That was my place of upbringing. I started rejecting, I started avoiding it. So I used to love playing football. I used to be a very skilled one. In fact, a lot of people thought, till date, when people meet me, they ask me, do you still play football? Where are you playing and all of these things? They still think that I still maintain the football habits I had because I was very good. I had a lot of promise. I did a lot of trainings, a lot of scouting opportunities, but I was not chosen for any. So by the time I started reading, I made a deliberate choice. Usually the time for football is 4 p.m. and the good time for reading is actually 4 p.m. too. So I had to choose. So I chose reading. You know, if the 10-year-old me, like the 11-year-old me, the 15-year-old me had caught me doing that, they would have dealt with me. They would not believe I was making that stupid choice. But yeah, I was deliberately choosing. So it was books that made a difference. You know, you read a book and I mean, you see the life of Booker T. Washington. This was a guy who was born in slavery. But this guy went ahead, established himself, established schools and made a difference for plenty of people. He had to trek to school. He had to work to pay his school fees. And then he went ahead to establish a school that became very phenomenal, influencing generations of African Americans. And then you look at his life and then you look at yours and you're like, no, my life cannot be small. It must be big. It must be consequential. We're not here for statistics. We're not here for just to add the numbers. We're not just here to add the population. I mean, we're here to make a difference. So it was books who did that for me. Books opened me to a new world.
Oh, so I think it's on books. One of the most influential books I've ever read. I read this book when I was in high school. It's called, I think, The Power of the Mind by Joyce Meyer. I remember the cover.
Oh
It's
yeah,
a blue gray book that had little chess pieces on it. You know, I remember
yes, yes.
reading it in high school because I truly believe that children are made readers on the laps of their parents. My father was a reader, and I remember one time he had like the 16 Laws of Success by Napoleon. He had like printed copies, and I would just read and read. And I do agree with you that books can really alter your worldview. So, but then my brother, they are not everyone will have access to books. You know what I mean? So someone will be probably watching us, and they're from Jenta, you know, or Gokwe like me, or Jenta in Nigeria, and probably they don't know God. No one has ever introduced God to them. So probably they don't have books or God, the sort of things that worked for you. What would you say to kids growing up, you know, in environments like that, that probably
Yeah,
do
well,
not have the pillars that you had? What would you say to the child who's still in Genta right now, you know, to inspire
no.
them?
So yeah, this is very funny because my whole story inspired my life work. So my life work has been inspired by the very question that you asked. Because I know the lack of books. We actually didn't. I started reading from newspapers. My dad had stacks of newspapers, old newspapers from the 1970s, and those were the stuff that I was reading in the 2000s. And just because I had a big quest for knowledge, and I I went around the community. I met some few people, one or two people in the community who had books that I went ahead and I read it with them. and I borrowed from their place. And then, I mean, eventually we went ahead to start the library. But back to what you were asking, if you are in my condition, if you are in my place, the best thing I'll tell you is the very fact that you are watching this video tells you that there are opportunities.
Mm,
Today, there are a shit ton of books on the internet that you can be able to access for free. There are websites like Project Gutenberg which make access to books completely free. And then there are conversations like this that you should watch. Keep
mm,
watching these conversations, keep watching things like this. Search, I mean, go on Petty's YouTube. There are a lot of videos. Watch all of them. You know what it does to you, first of all? It soaks you with a desire. There's a
mm,
proverb, there's a saying by this wise man who said that a mind that is stretched to a new idea can never return to its former state.
mm,
So by the
mm,
time you continue watching these things, by the time there's a deep desire in you, it's going to find expression. And the most
mm,
likely way it's going to find expression is that, first of all, you're going to begin to look for people like you. You're going to
mm,
begin to look for a community of tribe of people who are going in the same direction with you. And when you find them, wherever they are, and you know what? The
mhm,
universe conspires to help you whenever you're willing to change and transform your life. It conspires. It always conspires. So when you're ready, when you've soaked yourself, begin to put yourself out there. When I say begin to put yourself out there, right? Begin to ask questions on Facebook. Begin to ask questions on YouTube. Begin to ask questions in your community. Begin to ask questions in places. Begin to engage people too. And you connect with the right people. And when you connect with the right people, your life will never be the same again. You have your whole tribe, you hold hands together, and you guys will scale those mountains of challenges. You guys will scale those hurdles together. You guys will get to that place where these challenges are going to become a thing of the past. But first of all, don't stop searching. Don't stop the quest. Don't stop. Just keep going. Just keep going. The universe will come to aid you. What it just needs is that, first of all, it needs to see how desperate or how passionate you are. There's this guy, Tony Robbins. I don't know if you've heard of him. He wrote a book
mm,
called Awaken the Giant Within.
mm,
Yeah, he said something in one of his videos. He said that he has studied successful people. He has studied people who lifted themselves out of poverty. He has studied great leaders. He has studied so many things. He said, but the number one most consistent thing that is common in all the people who succeed is one thing.
mhm,
It's called HQ. And you
mm.
know what's that? That is hunger quotient. Hunger
Ooh.
quotient. You know, we have IQ, right?
Mhm,
Intelligent quotient. But
mhm,
he said that's not the thing that makes people successful. It is the level of hunger that they have.
mm,
And wherever you are, whether you're in Zimbabwe, in the slums of the slums, whether you're in Nigeria, in the slum of the slums, if your hunger is greater than the challenges around you, you'll rise out of it. I'm sure.
oh
I mean,
my
look at
God.
me. Look at both of us.
I know. And I think when you're speaking, I always say that one of my most powerful gifts is the ability to be inspired. Like very, very small things inspire me. So when you're speaking, I was really resonating with you. I was there with you. I was hearing you. That the hunger question, it's a real thing. I remember growing up, I always knew that I deserved the good things of life. I always knew that I was going to be somebody in this world. I always knew that I was going to speak on platforms. I was going to write. I always knew. And sometimes I didn't have an idea of how it was going to happen, but I always knew. So
I
thank
have
you
a
for that.
question.
Mhm.
Yeah, I have a question related to that. I'm sure that
Yeah.
when you were believing those things, when you were knowing those things, there were people around you who didn't believe them too.
Oof, oof, oof. One thing, my sister, she's my sister and she's my best friend. She said it was something to me. They were
Mhm,
driving me back to the airport, I think about 2 years back. And she held
mhm,
my hand and she said something. And she said, do you realize that everything you've said you wanted to do out of life, you have done it? When you
mhm,
spoke about it growing up, some of us didn't say it because we thought we were being
mhm.
humble. But everything you've said you wanted to do, you've done it with your life.
That's
And
so
that's my
sweet.
oldest sister. So
Oh, nice. Nice. That's so sweet. Yeah, you see the point, right? I mean, people people who don't believe can't transform their life. If you don't believe it, it can happen. And that's what makes you stand out from all the people who are in the same situation. Your ability to believe. It won't happen if you don't believe. Yeah, it won't happen if you don't
True,
believe.
true.
Um,
Okay, so before we make this conversation about me, because I can talk for Zimbabwe, let's go back to you. This is about you. We don't want to make this about me because once you get me started, this girl can talk. But let's come back to you. I think one of the things that impresses me the most about you is you didn't just dream for yourself. You dreamt for
Mm,
a community. It's
mm,
like you just didn't dream for your wife, for your kids, for your family.
mm.
You went ahead and you dreamt for an entire community. You set up an actual library. Like, let's talk about that. Let's talk about
Oh,
that. What went
okay.
into that? What made you do that? What inspired that? Dreaming
You
for
know,
an entire community.
well, so yeah, I mean, there were so many things.
Mhm,
There were so many things, but part of it, one is my mom. My mom was a very generous person. She was kind. Our house was like a barracks in a good way. Everyone
mm,
was welcomed. You could always come and eat. So I learned to see community rather than to just see myself by watching her. I could
mm,
see her loving everyone. So I mean, eventually it became my thing. Then the second thing was that after my mind transformed, I looked around, I saw my friends. There were a
mm,
lot of them who were still struggling. In
mm,
fact, some of them were trying to pull me down. You get when I say pull me down, they weren't doing like, being wicked. No,
mhm,
sometimes your friends don't know their drive. So, for instance, let's say you want to go for a life-changing program, but your friends will be saying, "Let's go for a football match." To
mm,
them, they may not realize, but they're trying to pull you away from the thing that is about to change your life. After things began to change for me, I began to look back. I mean, these were the people I grew up with. These are the people I still loved. I
mhm,
have to do something for them or for the next generation. And
mm,
what's the point of success, Petty, if you're the only successful one in your family?
mm,
What's the point of success if you are the only one who is comfortable? What's the
mm,
point of being transformed? Like when there's so much need in the world.
mm,
And I mean, the the other thing was the influences I had. My heroes were people who lived and spent their life fighting for their communities. Martin
mm,
Luther King Jr. I mean, he ultimately was shot, 39 years old, died very young, but
mm,
that guy reshaped America.
mhm,
Mahatma Gandhi, I mean, Gandhi lived to a very bit older age, but ultimately he was killed because he loved Indian people, both the Muslims, both the Christians, both the Hindus. He loved everyone.
mhm,
And people like William Wilberforce, who fought against slave trade. These were the men I lived with. These were the men that I read books about. These were the men that I listened to their speeches. And the one obvious thing was that they lived a life that was beyond theirs. You
mm,
know, think about it this way.
mhm,
Petty, let's say we get an opportunity and live for 100 years.
mhm,
We live for 100 years, we get buried, and maybe we'll have a grave in our homes or in our villages.
mhm,
But 100 years from now, who is going to remember me?
mm,
I
mm,
mean, 100 years from now, who is going to think? Who's going to say, "Oh, Lengdung was here and life was better"?
mm,
If I
mm,
don't live a better life, if I don't live a life that is supposed to make those of others better, no one will remember me. And that's not the
mm,
goal. I don't believe Jesus sent us to earth. I mean, look at the Bible said we are city upon a hill,
mm,
we are ambassadors and all of this. So if we're all these things, then how will we come and live small, mediocre, average life?
It's
That's too small. I carry God in me. I carry the Holy Spirit all around. So why will I come and be forgotten in 20 years? Why will I come and be forgotten in 30 years? Why will I come and be forgotten at all? And why will I come and live for just myself? Isn't that too small? Isn't that too selfish? I mean, each time we're having conversations and you tell people that man is a selfish man, how do you feel? Don't you feel irked by something? So
mm,
if you feel irked by that, why would you want to live that same way? So it's more like this were the influences that point me to this direction. These were the influences that point me to try to do something, to try um to change my and this is the funny part. Your story is always designed in such a way. God designs your life in such a way that your story is going to become the weapon you will use to change the world.
mm,
That your story becomes the thing that you use to relate to others. So for
mm,
me, I knew books made a big difference for me. So it was like, so what can I do to help make a difference for others? So I mean, books was the inevitable choice. And
mm,
it's very important I mention this now because this connects to the thing we were talking about earlier.
mhm,
I wasn't the exact one who started the library. It
mhm,
wasn't me like the I'm just a co-founder. The main guy who started it is called Philip Dimka. He's
okay.
my friend.
Mm-hmm.
And he went ahead to start the library. I just joined in, and we went ahead and did everything together and all of
Mm-hmm.
that. But this brings me back to the point I was mentioning earlier. When you decide that you want to change your life, you have to go around to find a cycle of people who are like you.
Mm, mm,
Yeah, and that's what happened. That's what brought me to Philip. That's what brought me to a few other guys like Peter, like Timothy, and several other men and women who have become a part of Jenta Reads and part of the library that we did in our community that is
mm,
continuing to change the lives of people.
mm. You know, when you were there's so many things you talked about there that I was thinking, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. You know, when you're talking about like being born to do more, one of my
Mhm.
absolute favorite speakers and authors is a man called Jim Rohn. I don't know if you know him.
Oh yeah, oh
And
yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah.
I know there is one of his books where he's talking about developing a philosophy for your life and attitude and stuff
Mhm.
like that. He says that we are born, our lives should mean more than starting having a bunch of expenses in between and then dying. That was
Uh-huh.
such a powerful way of looking at it. Like it's you were born and you have a bunch of expenses in between and then it ends. And you were saying that you should believe that you were meant for more. And I think one thing that I'm also hearing from your story that I would want to say a little bit more about is you find your purpose when you live for other people. You know, when it's not when you are serving others. You know, another man that I like is a man called Jordan Peterson. And he says that in his clinical psychology, he found that the most depressed people are people who always focused on themselves. People who always say me. And he wasn't saying that it doesn't mean that all depressed people are selfish, but he was saying that when you focus too much about yourself, there is a chance that you might trip yourself, you know. So I think it just echoes what you're
Yeah,
talking about, that it's choose to live your life outwards, choose to live your life in such a way that you serve others, you bring value to your community, to
oh,
your
yeah.
life, and you use the
Mhm.
talents that God has put within you to bring change. So I think
Yeah.
it's
Betty, I think, yeah. Can I ask you a question? Do you
mhm,
know, have you, I think you've done this. You remember all those times when you went to school to distribute books? Remember all
mhm,
those times when you tried to pay school fees for others?
mhm.
And they come back and they tell you thank you and they tell you you've changed my life. Do you remember the feeling?
It's
Do you
mm,
remember? It's sweeter
mm,
than chocolate. It's sweeter than sugar. It's
mhm,
sweeter than the sweetest meal. It's
mm,
sweeter than Nigerian jollof rice.
You know,
So like,
it it actually brought tears to my eyes for a little bit because I remember during the Dare to Dream tour, there was this girl. She
mhm.
hugged me so tightly. And she said, Sissy Petty, thank you for showing me that there is a way out of this.
Amazing, amazing. Do you see that? Do you see that? That is the selfless life. That
Mm,
is the feeling we get for just trying. I mean, this is more booster than alcohol,
mm,
than more booster than anything.
mm,
So by the time you just decide to live your life that way, the joy you get alone, the
mm,
joy you get alone, that people will gather, that people will see. Like, so a friend sent me a message last week and
mhm,
she was saying basically what we're just saying here. I had helped him do a few things and eventually he got a job and he's working. And so he told me something. He said, one of my greatest gifts and the gift I give people that I don't recognize a lot is that I help them to raise their eyes to see above, to see
mm,
what's possible, even when they didn't know it was possible. Like it was, I just reacted on the message. I just don't know what to say next. So, but who wouldn't want to be receiving that kind of message? Who would
mm,
want? Do you want to have all the money in the world and just be eating lots of chicken, eating lots of turkey, just eat everything, take yogurt, and just enjoy it? Like even your kids are going to complain. I know people who are considered wealthy here, whom their kids are complaining to me because their dad are not giving them money for basic things that they need. Like if your
mhm,
daughter is complaining, if your son is complaining, are you living a meaningful life? I
Oh
mean,
my
how
God.
how so small are you? How so small are you? How so small? How so small are? And now this is the other thing. A lot of people say that when they become rich, that's when they'll start giving. That's when they'll have to do this, to do that, to do that. You know what I've learned? If you don't learn to give when you have little, you won't give when you have much.
True.
Giving is something you learn from the heart. It's something that you imbibe from the beginning. It's
Mm-hmm.
something that you inspire. It's something
Mm-hmm.
that you get from. Now, I should say this. The particular thing that triggered us to start the library the particular thing that triggered Philip to start the library in particular was a quote by John F. Kennedy. And it was a quote that John F. Kennedy was asking, ask not what your country can do for you, but ask what you can do for your country. So it's an invitation to a higher life. It's an invitation to a whole new place of existence. The place where you are free flowing, the place where you are less. And the thing Jordan Peterson said is the truth actually. People who are obsessed about themselves are hardly happy. Because you can never please this flesh. You can never please this in a single day you want hundreds of things. How are you gonna satisfy all of them?
True.
So you gotta just learn to close your eye for a moment and look at others and realize that there are other human beings in this world. You're not here alone, and you cannot walk alone.
You know what? You know what's coming to me, my brother? I'm realizing that someone might be listening to us and they might be thinking, "Oh my God, starting this library must have been easy for Philip and Lejeune." But then what people don't realize is the process looks easier at the end. So I want you to talk a little bit more about the challenges and the things that you
Mhm.
experienced and what the process looked like. Because someone watching us now might be thinking, I can't start that because the way Petty and Lejeune are talking about it sounds like it's
Mm.
supposed to be easy, it's supposed to be
Yeah.
breezy. You dream, you imagine, and then voila, it just happens. So I want us to come back a little bit and explore some challenges and what the process looked like and how you dealt with those challenges. What made you keep going in the face of those challenges so that we might inspire other dreamers out there that are thinking it
Mm.
probably was easy for them.
Yeah. The truth is, it wasn't easy. Now, so I wrote this book. This book I wrote is about 200 pages. I'll
Mm.
tell you that about 180 pages are actually stories of challenges.
Mm.
It's just the last 20 pages I say something good. 180 pages are just struggles, and it's actually the truth. The part of the reason the book was written, and this is part of why I enjoy biographies and memoirs and autobiographies, because I mean, we can just look at Martin Luther King Jr. and be like, oh, he was a great man. This guy was amazing. I mean,
Mm.
he made America to desegregate. He made America to pass the civil rights bills and all of these things. But you don't remember that there were dark moments where Martin Luther King was depressed. There were
Mhm.
moments where he was threatened. There were moments where he was shot. There were moments when he almost died. It is when
Mm.
you read a biography or a memoir that you find this out. Starting the library was no easy. We
Mm.
started it. We thought we would get support from our community. We thought we would get support from people. We went around all the churches in our community, which were like 20 churches, Petty. Went around all of them, to
Mm.
every single one of them, because we were looking for support. We tried to get something from them. And you know what? Not a single one gave us anything.
Mm. Mm.
Like, not
Mm.
a single one. We didn't get any support for a long time. We
Mhm.
didn't get any. Oh no, not any support. We didn't get any big support from the places that we expected.
Mm.
For months, we're actually using our homes as the library. We're
Mm.
using our rooms, like people will come to our rooms, enter our rooms to borrow books, because that was the only thing that we had. So it was no easy at all. And there were other times when there was actually a point where we were really stuck, because by that point we had done a lot of publicity on social media, we had done a lot of publicity around the churches, and many people were coming to borrow books, but we didn't have a space. And like the way our community is, especially women cannot enter into our rooms to go and just pick books. These were women that we didn't know. These were people we didn't even know, we have never met. And these
Mm.
were not exactly our house. This was our parents' houses. So it
Mm.
wasn't like, I mean, this is Lengdung's house, and so you can come in. And so this is Lengdung's father's house, first of all. So you have to go greet his father first before you can get access to his room to borrow a book. So it was
Mhm.
very uncomfortable, very, very distraught.
Mhm. Mhm.
And but like you said, we kept believing. We
Mm.
knew that this was a vision that will come to pass. We believed that if there was any change that will happen, it
Mhm.
will come from us. So
Mm.
our plan was to try our best to keep moving. And you know what? There's this not TED Talk. I think it's a speech. It's called the last lecture. It's a lecture where someone gives when they're about to die. So the guy who delivered this one is called Randy Pouch.
Mm.
And one of the things he said is, life places obstacles in front of you to test how determined you are to get that thing. And
Mm.
the people who are not determined hit it a few times and they go back. But the people who succeed are the ones who keep eating and keep hitting until the obstacle becomes the way.
Mm.
And so that's what happened to us. We kept knocking, we kept asking for doors, we kept praying. And you know what? The answers came in the ways we didn't expect at all. Yeah,
Mm.
the answers came in very random ways. So let me tell you this. We had a friend who is in the US.
Mhm.
He came from the United States. He came to Nigeria just to see our library, to join our work, to support us. He brought books for us. So,
Mhm.
you would think as a Nigerian, as an African, you would think that when such a person comes, he's going to give money and distribute money for us so that we can improve our work. You
Mhm.
know what's funny? That
Mhm.
man didn't give us money to do
Mhm.
that work. Yeah, so he came, visited, stayed with us, and then he left. And
Mm.
now we had the baggage to deal with, the baggage of he had come and everyone thought he had given us money, but he didn't.
Mm.
And he left. The money came through one of the most miraculous ways.
Mm.
So there are these guys in Nigeria called they're in Africa actually, Selfless for Africa. They fund grants all across Africa,
Mm.
all across countries, and they've done Nigeria, they've done Zambia. I don't think they've done Zimbabwe anyway. So,
Mm.
but they had this thing that they were calling at that point Emerging Leaders Program. So
Mm.
we wrote an application. You go through you write the application first, then you're selected. You have an online interview, then you're shortlisted. Then you go for a physical pitching in Abuja, Nigeria. So we were selected the first stage. We did the interview. We scaled. Then we went to Abuja for the pitching, and then we went there. And there are all these other groups. Everyone had their stuff ready. They had their pitch in PowerPoint. They were so professional, like petty, like they were just intimidating us. This guy wear proper clothes. I was wearing my jacket that with a sweater that someone had borrowed me, and I was just standing there like a hooligan. Like what was I doing here? So and we went ahead and we made our pitch.
Mm.
Surprisingly, at the end of the day, they selected our program. And it
Mm.
came with a $5,000 grant, which allowed us to go back. We rented a 3-room space, bought 10 computers, put it there, built shelves, arranged one space to be a reading area, the other area for welcoming people. And then the rest is history. Since
Wow.
then, kids like
Wow.
us have been walking into the libraries to borrow books, to
Wow.
read, and
Wow.
their lives are still better till date.
You know what?
But I
It's
tell you, like I was saying, the challenges were there.
I know, and I think I think this is such an important aspect of the story we need to highlight, because there are so many people out there who have dreams, who have burdens, who have projects that they are starting, and they do it for a few months and then it's not coming together and they quit, or they don't have. And one thing that you said that I was like nodding in my head was you did not get help from the people that you expected to help you. And that's a something to be said, because sometimes when you do things, there's a
In the
natural
way,
expectation. There's a
uh-huh,
natural
uh-huh,
expectation that, oh my God, if my idea is so good, everyone is going to buy into it. By a few months, I would have done this, I would have scaled, I would have. And you don't necessarily get the help that you want or the extent that you want, not necessarily because it's a bad idea, because it's the law of process. And you keep going and going and going. So thank you for sharing that and showing us that it wasn't all rosy, but it was worth it in the end. I think that's an important lesson for people to know. It's like, and you talked about the help finally coming from a place you didn't expect. That's the thing about life. That's the thing about God. That's the thing about the universe aligning. You never know where your answer is going to be. Probably the day you quit today, you were supposed to meet your miracle tomorrow. So
uh-huh,
probably
uh-huh.
where you were giving up is where it's supposed to end. So whatever it is
Correct.
you're doing, keep going, keep believing in it. Even if it means giving people books from your parents' bedroom, don't do that. You get into trouble. But even if
Oh
it
yeah,
means doing that, you know what I mean? Like even if it means starting from that place that looks so small or so insignificant, start. Don't look at doing with his fancy bookshelf behind him, which is four
ah,
times bigger than mine, and you're thinking, oh
ah,
my God, I can never do it. It's like you didn't start from there. You started from his
yes,
parents'
yes.
bedroom, and it ultimately it came together. That's very, very inspiring, my brother. So let's talk a little bit now about your book. You know,
Oh,
it's I love
yeah.
books,
Oh,
clearly,
yeah.
and I'm going to order a copy of yours. So tell us a little bit about the book. What is it about? What was the
Mhm.
motivation, and how
Yeah.
was the writing process like?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's a very important question. I don't know why people are not asking me about that a lot, but they need to ask. And before, and as I'm answering, they need to be giving me a soft drink, a cold soft drink. Let me be chilling first of all. It was very hard. Now, so the man who we met on Facebook, who came and visited us, I said he did not help us at that point in the way that we thought he would, or in the way that we expected, or in the way that society expected. But he did help us later on. Now, this is very important, and this is something that entrepreneurs, that dreamers need to learn. This is something that dreamers. This is very important for dreamers. Dreamers, you need to realize that your dream is just yours. Your dream is just yours. I mean, you can have the most brilliant idea in the world, you share it, but it is possible that it's going to fall flat. You know why? Because this is your dream. And your dream is going to come to pass in the way that it has been designed for you, for your life, not the way others' life has happened. So that man, eventually, his name is Norris. Eventually, he did not help us at that particular point. But today, if he asks me who is the person who has made the most biggest difference in my life, it will be him. He actually inspired me to write this book. He's the one who kept pushing me. He's the one who kept telling me, I need to write this book. I rejected it. I told him I was too young. I told him this was too early. I told him I don't have time to write. I told him this was difficult. But you know what? He kept pushing me. He kept pushing me, kept telling me, kept reminding me, kept giving me reasons. And eventually he told me that I should remember that this is just not my story. This is the story of my whole community. So do I want to be silent? And with that, he got me. I went back to the drawing board and I started writing. It was very difficult partly because I've never written a book. Petty, you've written a book. You know how difficult this is. The first time is very hard. Oh my God. Like, yeah, people talk about writer's block, but this is not just writer's block. There's a life block where your whole life is blocked because you don't know what to write in the next few pages. And there are moments when you're frustrated. There are moments when you just want to quit. There are moments when the words are not just coming out the way you want them to come out. There are moments when you have to throw out. I think I threw out maybe like 50 to 100 pages in this book because I kept rewriting, throwing it away, and there were plenty of days like that. But at the end, I wrote a book that I know I want to read. I wrote a book that I will know that when someone picks and read, their heart will be on fire. When someone picks and read, their life will become a different one. When someone picks and read, by the time they drop it, they will know that a new life is possible. I wrote a book for my former younger self. I wrote a book for a kid like me in the trenches. I wrote a book for kids like me in Zimbabwe. I wrote a book like this for people all around the world whose life has been stories of challenges and challenges. And you know the funny part? This is more than half of the world, people with challenges. More than half of humanity are actually living below their capacity, below what they are capable of, below what has been apportioned onto them to do. So this book, yeah, it's a wake-up call, both for me and for the rest of us. Like, you can do something and your life can change, you can be better. By the way, Petty, do you know that I was expelled in school or suspended? Yeah.
No. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a story I want to hear. Please tell me more. What happened?
Okay. I
What
was
happened?
very naughty. I was very naughty as a secondary school kid, very naughty. If you're looking for someone who will break the rules, it was definitely me. If you're looking for someone who been the criminal, I was always there. Now the stupid part was that I was in those group and I was also one of the most brilliant kids in my class. So my teachers would catch all of us, like five of us, six of us, doing something wrong, and they'll be like, "Oh, Lengdung is even there. Oh, Lengdung, and he's good in class, and he's the best. He's brilliant. What are you doing there, this brilliant boy, this intelligent boy? Why are you doing like this? Why are you?" Ah, so it was more like I was using my intelligence to do all the wrong things. In our school, we had a farm behind us. It wasn't ours. It belonged to some people within the community. They farmed vegetables, cabbage, pepper, some of these small stuff. So students used to go and steal them. They would steal them, put in food. But you know what? Mine was an escalated level. I didn't steal it. I opened the whole shop. I could pick a whole Google box, get steal a lot of vegetables. We placed it was like a market. So, but ultimately, I was yes, I was a businessman, an illegal businessman.
You've always been a dreamer and entrepreneur. I can see that.
Yes. Yes, yes. So and then there was also this time where I brought a phone to the school, which was a contraband. The phone
Mm,
was seized, and that was actually what led to my suspension from school. At that point, I was the senior prefect. Can you believe that? I was the head boy. I was stripped of my prefectship. I
mm.
was, yeah, I was suspended from school for some weeks. I went home and I came back. It was a big shame. It was the most shameful moment of my life. Like really, oh my God, it was
What
very
did it teach
traumatizing.
you? What did you learn from that? I'm curious. What did you learn from that moment?
Now, one of the things it did for me that time was it slowed me down. I was going too fast in terms of doing many wrong things. I
Mm,
mean, bringing contraband to school, stealing those farm produce. I was just a naughty kid.
mm,
When I was suspended, I finally had to stop. My life had to stop. Like it was like, okay, what has this given you? What
mm,
have you gained from all this kind of lifestyle? What
mm,
has been beneficial to you? So that was the moment I began to ask those questions. That was the moment I began to look around. I began to ask myself, why are all my teachers telling me you're brilliant, you're smart, but you are naughty? It
mm.
began to enter me in a whole new way.
Wow.
I began to like, okay, guys, maybe I should just pick on the brilliant side and stick to it. I mean, this them saying brilliant and naughty, like dude, just drop one and manage with one. So
Pick one.
yeah, pick one. So I chose my struggle. So yeah, that was the point. And then the book Motion is titled Motion because it's picked from Newton's law of motion, which
Ooh.
says that an object will continue to remain in a state of rest or uniform motion unless it is acted upon by an external force. For your life to change, now this is why dreamers need to watch podcasts like this, why dreamers need to read books, why dreamers need to encounter people, because your life will continue to remain the same unless something outside of yourself hits you. That thing can be book, that thing can be podcast like this, that thing can be video, that thing can be a movie, that thing can be a conversation, that thing can be a person, that thing can be a place. But
Mm,
you need something outside of yourself to hit you before
mm,
your life can change. We don't have the internal capacity to do that. There
mm,
must something that does the awakening and transform
mm.
you.
Wow, my
Yeah.
brother, it's that's very deep and very, very inspirational. And I think that's one thing that me and you can relate on. I was not the best of student in high school as well. I had my fair share, of trouble.
Oh,
I was
really?
I know I had a problem with authority. I
Tell
got
me.
into trouble. I
Oh, so I'm sure in your case they were like, "Oh, this girl, she's even fine. She's smart and she's naughty again." And they'll be,
and
she's so fine. She's so fine."
in my case, it was even bad because my older sister, she's 3 years older than me. She was the vice head girl. So when she was punishing people, the first one she punished was your little sister. So
Oh,
the teachers, so teachers always compared us. Like, why can't you always be like your sister? And I felt like the more they say that, it's like, the more I did it. So
I can relate. I can relate to this. I can relate to this. We had a guy who was my friend. His name is Peter. He's still my best friend up till now. So he was the senior prefect, the head boy, just before me.
mhm.
So they were always telling me, why can't you be like that guy? That guy is calm. That guy is gentle. That guy obeys the rules. I'm like, guys, it's if you do that, this reaction you're having is the same reaction. I'm like, no, you guys, this is me. Take me as I am.
I think we're hitting on something. If their parents and teachers are watching us out there, comparing your child or your student to anybody else never works.
It
It
never works. It
never
never
works.
does.
Identify their strengths, identify who they are. Because I feel like the more you compare someone to someone else, the more they will rebel to show you that I
Correct.
am not that person, I am this person.
Yes.
So instead
Yes.
of telling your child to be like someone else, identify who they are and help them see and focus on their own positives. So
Yeah.
parents, teachers, pastors watching us, stop
Mm.
comparing people. It never works. See, case study from Zimbabwe, case study from Nigeria. It does not work.
Yes. It almost ruined. Now, for many years, me and this guy were like, we were quarreling. We were like rivals. We were quarreling. Do you know what? It was after we graduated, after we left the school, that they have been comparing us in. That's when we became best of friends. During my wedding, he was my best man.
Mm.
You get the level of the whole level of friendship that we've had. But that only happened after they stopped comparing us, or after we left the place where they were comparing us.
So comparing. See, it's
And we started,
it's
and now, like you're saying, both of us have understood each other's strength. So I know he's the calm, meticulous guy. He knows I'm the guy who can move stuff immediately. When we need to move something immediately, I do the job. When we need something more meticulous, I hand it over to him. We both know our strengths. We're working together. We're working perfect. And yeah, he's
it's
the Warren Buffett to my Charlie Munga.
you know. So I think it's a big. I actually write about it a big. My experience with that in my book because it
Oh,
never
really?
works. Yeah, it never really. It's for the longest time people try to do that with my sister, and
Mm.
it's like I never even had a problem with it, but people would always try to be like, oh, why can't you be like her? Why can't you be like her? And now we've gone like you're talking about. We've gone to be true amazing people in our individual rights, and we complement each other. So.
Mm, mm.
Anyway, before we keep on talking and talking and talking, tell us
Yes,
where
yes.
do we get your book, Ledung? Where do we get
Oh,
motion from the laws
oh,
of oh my god, the motions? Where do we
oh.
get motion and
Yeah.
inspiration?
Okay. Yeah, you can get my book on Amazon. My book is available on Amazon now, but it's also available on our website, walkingtogetherpress.com. Walking Together. That's WAL Walking Together dot press. Yeah, I think we're gonna have a comment to that we're gonna have a link to that on the comment
On the
box.
video, yeah.
Yeah, on the video, and then you can also get, if you're in Nigeria, you can get it directly from me on our social media handles. Yeah, the name is on the screen, Lengdung Tungchamma. Just send me a message. It'd be a great joy to send you my book. Like, the sweetest thing I hear these days is, where can I order for your book? That's sweeter than anything, sweeter than chocolate. So just tell me, where can I order for your book, or I want
Oh,
your book. Yeah, so
that
please
will
get
make
my
your
book.
day. Oh, okay. I'm sure
That will
they
make
will.
my day.
I think when I also upload the video and put the description, I'll also send all the possible links. And I
Mhm,
didn't know that it was on Amazon. I thought it was on, I'll order mine. And then when
mhm,
I published my book for the first time, I asked
mhm.
people who bought it to send selfies with it. So when I order yours and it arrives, I'll take my selfie with it and then I'll send you the
Oh,
selfie.
thank you so much. Oh, my Betty. Oh, Betty, send it, please.
Okay, so everyone who buys Ledung's book, please take a selfie and send a selfie and send him the picture of the book. So Ledung, as we are rounding up, tell us
Mm.
what sort of lessons have you learned from your journey that you would want to know in a few words? What lessons do you think every dreamer out there, every person, and this is what I want people to understand. When we say dreamers, this is not limited to young people. This is not limited to a specific demographic. The guy who
Mhm.
started KFC did that at 65. So there is
Yeah.
no age limit to dreaming.
Mhm,
Everyone is
mhm.
a dreamer. So when we
I'm
say
the one.
this is for the dreamers, we're not talking to a specific demographic. We're talking to every one of us because we all have a dreamer within us. So Lejun, what lessons have you learned from your journey, from your life that you would want to live with the viewers?
Yeah, I want to speak to the dreamers today. I want to speak to the dreamers,
Mhm.
and not just to a specific thing, like you said, not to a specific demographic, but I want to tell you, YOLO, you are going to live only once.
Mm. Mm.
Don't stop waiting at home. Stop waiting for the perfect time. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. Stop waiting for money. Stop waiting for life to fix itself. Stop waiting for the next government. Stop waiting for the next thing. Stop waiting for your uncle. Get
Mm.
out there and chase your dreams. Do you
Mm.
want to travel? Start. Do you
Mm.
want to write a book? Go ahead and write it. Do you want to change a job? Go ahead and change it. Do you want to build a library? Go ahead and do it. What do you want to do? What is your big dream? Stop
Mm.
waiting. Superman is not coming. He won't save you. He won't change your time. He won't change your life. This, the box stop with you. I want
Mm.
to remind you that you're the chief executive officer of your life. And when you stand at the end of it, when all is over and done, the most important things you're going to regret are the things you did not do. So remove some things off that list. Yeah, get it out. There's still time. So get out there. And I hope that next time when I'm watching Conversation with Dreamers, I'll watch your episodes too. Because
Mm.
your dream will have come true.
That is so profound. That is so, so profound. Go out there and do it. No one is coming to change your life, and no one owes you anything. And like you said earlier on, your dream is yours. I don't even know
Yeah.
how many times I've said this to people. Your vision is your responsibility. People start
Yes.
clapping for you when you win. People start
Yes.
congratulating you when it's making sense. So if you expect people to clap for you, if you expect Ledung to say well done, to say you will be disappointed. Do it for you. Do it when you want. Do it when you don't want. It's your dream. That's so powerful, Ledung. Thank you so much. And I always like asking this question. I feel like it forces people to think. So I'm going to ask you the question. What would you say to 10-year-old self?
Oh, read more books, bro. Hey, that's a joke. I think I'll tell my 10-year-old self to listen to your mom.
Hmm.
Yeah, listen to your mom. I
Oh,
didn't, and she died. And
mm,
yeah, my biggest regret was when she died. I kept praying and kept telling myself, "Mom, can you come back? I want to listen to you now. I want to obey you."
I'm so sorry for that loss, my brother. Mm.
Uh, yeah. So listen to your mom. That's what I would tell my 10-year-old self.
At least you have your daughter now, and you can make sure that she listens to you. So,
I assure you, she's not listening to me.
but in Africa, there are ways to get her to listen that we can't say in front of the camera. But there are
Oh yeah,
ways.
don't say, you don't need to say it. You've passed the message. I absorb it.
Message from Auntie Petty, with love.
Yeah.
Message from Auntie Petty with love.
Okay. I'm going to hand over this message.
Oh, my brother, this has been absolutely amazing. We have had so much fun.
Yes.
Do you have any final parting shots for us? Any final parting shots for the dreamers out there? Or
This is the last thing I want to say.
Mhm,
Martin Luther King Jr. was born in the United States in deep segregation. He could not go to a white school. He could not go to white places. In
mhm,
fact, he ended up pastoring a church that was mostly black. He was segregated so many times. He experienced different form of challenges for his community because he
mhm,
was black. He didn't have so many rights per se. In fact, at that time in the city, black people were being shot anyhow and they could die, and there was nothing that would happen. Many of them didn't have the right to vote. They were still sidelined, and no one was basically, it was like everyone had accepted that state of living. Nothing was going to change. Everything was just the way it is. Things were very bad. Things were very, very bad. And the law was not on their side. But you know what? Martin Luther King came, and there was this day, this woman called Rosa Parks. She sat down in the bus, and the bus, it was supposed to be that when you're a black person, if you're sitting in the bus, you are going to stand up. If you're sitting in the bus, you're a black person. If a white person gets in, the black person is supposed to stand up till all the seats are filled. So black people will stand at the back, and they didn't have the right to sit. So she sat down that day, and she was tired. When the white people came in, she refused to stand up. And
mhm,
after she refused to stand up, they eventually arrested her, jailed her, and took her to court. And she was actually found guilty, but that tells you how the law was completely against blacks back then. And while she was in jail, they started organizing this thing, the Montgomery Boys Boycott.
mm,
And as they organized this bus boycott, they started mobilizing the community, started telling them they should boycott the buses so that blacks can be able to gain their rights and all of these things. Eventually, they did succeed. But you know what? All over the country, segregation was still very strong. Martin Luther King would go to a place to protest. He'd be beaten by cops. He was arrested several times, went to jail several times, slept in jail. There was a time in his house, a bomb was dropped, and all of these things. And then there was a time in his life where he was shot with a gun. It was just very many slide for him. If he had just breathed, he would have died. And several other threats in his life. The FBI was threatening him. The government, the president was telling him to stop the protests and all of these things. And then during that time, he went to Washington and then he delivered a speech.
mhm,
And the title of the speech is I Have a Dream.
mm,
He
mm,
said, I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of the former slave and the sons of the former slave owners will be able to sit together at the table of the brotherhood, where men will be judged not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their heart. A few months later, Martin Luther King was shot. The dreamer was shot.
Mm.
But you know what?
Mhm.
In 2008, a black man walked on the Capitol Hill of the United States, and his name was Barack Hussein Obama, the first black president of the United States. The dream that was dreamed more than 60 years ago had come to pass.
Mm. Mm.
You know
Mm.
what, guys? Go have your dream. That's the thing I want to say. And tell others, don't keep quiet. Tell everyone about it.
Mm. My brother,
That's
I
it.
think I can't even say anything else. That is the perfect way to end it. You had it from Lengdung, guys. Go out there and have your dreams. You may not see it realized in this lifetime, but your dream will definitely outlive you. Give yourself permission to dream. Lengdung, thank you so much for the amazing words, for the inspiration, for the motivation. And guys, do not forget to buy Lengdung his book. When you buy the book, take a selfie and let's send him pictures of the book. Thank you so much for watching today's episode. It's been amazing, and I am so excited to bring these stories to you. If you enjoyed the episode, please share it, please like, please subscribe to the channel. Tell someone to tell someone that the dreamers are coming, that the conversations are happening. Be there and be part of it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.